So last week I didn't have enough time to really go over the ba sentence in detail. So here I wanted to make a recording and just to see if I can explain it a little bit better. So in the past we've actually done the ba sentence before, and it means just to take something and do something to it. So for example, in this sentence, 明真把房间整理干净了. So what it means is that she took the room and she cleaned it up. In English, and you can also say 明真整理干净她的房间了. In English, both sentences will be translated the same, that she cleaned up her room. So you may wonder, then what's the point of, using the 把 sentence? In Chinese, it's a little bit subtle. When you're using the ba sentence, you're actually calling the reader's attention to the change that has happened to the object. In this case, it's the room. It's no longer messy, but it's now clean. This is just like a way to add a visual or audio cue to the reader or to the listener to notice that something has been done to the object, that it's no longer the same. But in lesson 3, the question is really how do you choose between 干净, 好, and 完? So the emphasis is not so much on the 把 sentence, but how do you choose amongst these three? And remember, I color coded the different parts of speech. So 把 is always in red. The object is in blue, the verb is in green, and the conditions are in white or in gray. And so the question is really how do you choose among 干净, among 好 and 完? 干净 is, I think, the most straightforward when it comes to something that has to be cleaned. You can use 干净. And then 好 and 完. 完 has to do, it gives you more of it. Going back to that. 好 and 完 both have meaning of completing something, like finishing something. One gives you more of a sense of the duration of time in which this um, task was being carried out, and now it's being completed. So it has more of a the feeling of the passing of time and coming to an end. Whereas 好 doesn't have that. It's completed, but it doesn't give you that sense of time duration. But it gives you a impression of quality, something that's good, something that's done proper. So let's look at some examples to give you a better feel of the different choices. So for example, 大家一起做，很快就把后院打扫干净了。So 把 object, action word, and how the object is now different. The meaning is like when everyone work together, they clean up the backyard really quickly and it's now clean. So the condition of the backyard is clean, and I think that's pretty straightforward that when it comes to anything that needs to be clean, you can use the adjective 干净. The same thing with cleaning a room. The dad said 客厅这么大，扫地机器人扫得干净吗? And then the other person says 没问题，他可以把客厅扫干净. No problem. The iRobot or Roomba can take the living room and sweep it so that it's clean. 它可以把客厅扫干净. The same thing with dishes. We clean dishes, so we use 干净 to describe how the dishes are no longer messy, but is now clean. 把碗洗干净. Here, let's talk about 好. 妈妈回家以后很快就把晚饭做好了. So after mom got home, she quickly fixed dinner. And here is that, now there is dinner versus before there was no dinner. And then so she finished it. But it's not about the duration of, the time that she spent cooking, but it's that now that there is there's food, there's dinner, and she did it in a good way, that it's quality work, and therefore we say 把晚饭做好了. Um, there's the other example with 好 is close the door, 把门关好. We wouldn't say 把门关完 because something, that took a very short amount of time. You don't say, well, the time that it took for you to close the door and now it's closed. Instead, it's, close the door the way it should be closed, so that, it is right and proper. And therefore, we say 把门关好. And here is an example of, the 游戏机, your I guess Nintendo Switch, your game devices. Put it away nicely. 把游戏机收好. 我差一点摔倒了. Put it away. Wow. I almost, tripped over. So you should put it back where it belonged, or, put it back in a nice place, because otherwise, I would have tripped over. Now the question is, why do we not say, well, why don't you clean up your Nintendo Switch? 为什么? So why don't we say, 把游戏机收干净, like, we would clear the table. So remember when we were talking about how, we said a lot of times it has to do with, quality stuff. And a lot of times the object itself is more valuable. And therefore, when it comes to those kind of things, it has its own, right place of placement, and it's more valuable. So you don't just, clear it. And so here in this situation, we would say 把游戏机收好. You put this away nice and properly. The thing that you would say about the table, 把桌子收干净, it's also because, 桌子 is not usually something that you stow away. It's not anything of great quality that you want to hide it. You want to treasure it. So basically, you're just like, saying clear the table. And therefore, we use the phrase 干净 rather than 收好. Okay, I don't know if you can see the qualitative difference between the two, but usually when something is more valuable, or something that has to do with, good quality, or, work that's done well, we use 好. And then the last example is the one that was one of the choices. 华中平常写字很慢，但是他今天很快就把功课写完了。所以是把功课 this is homework, 写 that's the action word, to complete. So 写 is to write, and then completing the task. This is really in contrast with the first part of the sentence, that he usually is a slow writer, but today he finished it really quickly. So the emphasis is on the duration in which, this is being completed. His homework has now been completed. So it calls more of an attention to that aspect of completing the homework. And here is an example of watching a movie. The dad says 快来吃饭, and the older sister says 马上, coming, coming right soon, right? 我把电影看完就来. Let me come when I finish the movie. 把电影是 movies, and this movie, and then 看 is to watch, and then finishing it. 就来，我把电影看完就来. Let me finish the movie and I'll come. So obviously the movie is not like, a second or two. It's usually like 90 minutes or longer. And therefore the one has that, emphasis on the time. When it ends, then that's when I come. So both 好 and 完 refer to the completion of something that finishes, but 完 gives you more of the duration of the time, whereas 好 gives you more of the quality of uh, the, the, uh, the quality of the work that's done to the object. So here, if you look at this picture, what do you think will be the ba sentence here? Ba something something something. So the first one would be the subject. So what do you think the subject here would be? And what do you think the verb or the action word would be? And here, would it be 干净好 or 完? Here it would be 把饭吃完. If you look at the picture, you can tell that this child is not very eager to finish his food, and it probably took a long. It's probably taking him a long time because he's not touching the food. So the food in Chinese is fan, and then what does he need to do to eat it? And what does he need to do with the food? He needs to finish it, and the finishing that has the time component is this one. So in this case, you would say 把饭吃完. How about here? 快 something 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 了. What do you think would be the answer? What would be the subject, the action word, and then 干净好 or 完? Which one would you choose? So the subject here will be 钱, money, and then 收 is to put it away. So here is 快把钱收好了. We wouldn't say 把钱收干净了 because there's no cleaning to the money. 快把钱收完了. Here, you're not collecting money. There isn't any kind of time duration to it. And also remember, we talked about anything that's valuable, you should put it away in a nice and safe place in terms of the quality of things. So therefore, it's 快把钱收好了. It's to put things away. How about this one? So you see the table of food. Okay, 吃晚饭. So after your meal, what should you do? Obviously, the red is for 把, but what is the object? What is the action word? And which among the three would you choose? 干净, 完, or 好? So it would be 吃完饭把桌子收干净. So here, the object that is we're calling attention to is the table, and then the action word is to clear or to clean it. It's really clear, and then the choices among 干净好 and 完 would be 干净. So after the meal, clear the table is what this sentence means. I don't know if you have any questions. If you do, let me know, and I'll try my best to explain.